Welcome to this week's class. We're going to talk about fitness and leisure, and I'm actually going to start pulling in some literature from some other books. This is from Recreation and Leisure in Modern Society. So today's objectives are to define fitness, discuss the fitness illusion, discuss obesity, talk about fitness between kids and adults and why it's different. We're going to come up with and understand excuses for not engaging in fitness. We're going to talk about some helpful tips for being successful. And last, we're going to talk about some healthy eating habits. Most of this is probably review, but it kind of just brings all this topic together. So the first thing I want you to do is pause this video and write a definition for fitness. Great. So hopefully you have drafted a fitness definition. And the idea here is that, this is a word that's thrown around a lot in the outdoor world. Like, hey, are you fit? What is fitness? This is a fitness mind body seminar. And so it is helpful to know what this word means. According to one text, fitness is the ability to participate without undue stress in a normal daily task and recreational activity, and having a healthy body and not being at risk for disease. And this is the definition of fitness. So what's interesting, I think, about this is that it's implying that there's no stress in fitness and that you should be able to do daily activities and recreational activities with a healthy body, with the goal of not having risk for disease. So, yeah, I'd love to hear your definitions. And we're going to move on. Okay, the fitness illusion. This is the fact that a lot of people spend a great deal of money on equipment, clubs, outdoor clothing, fitness clothing, but those people aren't exercising. If you think about infomercials, for like something like the Peloton, it's like, hey, get this and you will become fit. You'll look amazing. There's two different aspects of this. One is that this marketing is done really well. And it's kind of saying, like, if you just own this, you will become fit. And the other part is that the models and the people that are on TV or on the box, they look good. It doesn't mean that they use the machine to get that way. They probably look that way to begin with. But purchasing equipment and using it is different. And so unfortunately, we have a lot of media out there that shows fit people next to a product that says, hey, if you use this, you'll become this good. Perhaps you can, which is great, but there needs to be a connection between using the item and exercising. Obesity is defined as 30 pounds overweight, and this is actually a huge problem in the United States and the world. 35% of Americans are overweight, 26% of Americans are obese, and every year 300,000 Americans die from disease related to inactivity. And we're going to look at some more statistics with obesity. Okay, obesity is defined as having a BMI of 30 or higher. This is something that's calculated by using people's height and weight and then doing some math. It's also something that is done different ways by different metrics. So you might hear of like a gym doing BMI testing. There's also like little egg pods that you can sit in and they measure your BMI. So some are more accurate than others, but it is a way to measure body mass because fat and muscle weigh different. So It's not always done. A weight is just a number, but body mass is something different. So 4 million people a year die as a result of obesity. Worldwide, obesity has doubled since the 1980s. And even in underdeveloped and overdeveloped countries, obesity is still a problem, which is kind of fascinating to think about that, it is not just in developed countries. The obesity rate climbed during the pandemic. So between March of 2020 and March of 2021, obesity increased 3%. I don't know if there has been a study after the pandemic to see if that has calmed down, but that would make sense because people were inside and a little more sedentary and maybe not walking to work. Obesity is linked to 30 to 53% of new diabetic cases every year. That's a lot. Diabetes is a lifelong illness that is hard to control. And, obesity is directly linked to that. So that's about half of your people that are obese will develop diabetes. That stat is just from the US, though. Please note that. This has been a long-standing knowledge that medical costs for people that are obese is higher than people who are not obese. And obesity increases the average number of days missed from work. Now, if you look at different companies, a lot of companies will give you like a stipend to go work out at a gym, or they'll give you an incentive to do something that's physical fitness. And a lot of times an insurance company will give you a rebate based on the fact that, like, hey, if you have a gym membership and go, that we're actually going to save money on your health costs. So I think that's really cool, and I wish there was more incentive for people to be involved in being fit. Okay, kids versus adults. This is probably pretty obvious, but kids don't need a lot of encouragement to get outside and play, and adults need to make time for recreation. Now, I have not seen statistics in the last 3 years after the pandemic, but it would be interesting to know is that after the pandemic, if this did change for kids. If you think about kids, often they just run outside, they go play. With use of technology, that is becoming a little less and less, but adults often do make a little more time for recreation, but it takes a little more effort. So there's a balance between these two. Okay, benefits of exercise. Cardiovascularly, by having regular exercise, it keeps your blood pressure and cholesterol low. Okay, it prevents a development of diabetes by lowering body fat. It prevents cancer, colon cancer, breast cancer, prostate cancer. This can all be prevented by regularly exercising. Strengthening bones. If you think about osteoporosis, as you grow older, your bones get more brittle. If you regularly exercise, this helps. It develops a stronger immune system. Exercise creates new brain cells developing. It helps with falls, but really what that's trying to say is that your bones are stronger, so when you fall, they're less likely to break. Arthritis, it may help. Some people are predispositioned to arthritis, and it does not matter what they do. And then increased lifespan. There's a little statistic for every hour of exercise, it expands your life by 2 hours based on physical fitness. So there's lots of benefits, and I think You could also argue that benefits of exercising outside versus indoors are a little different. However, this focus is on just in the fact that getting up out of your desk and your chair, out of your dorm, really does help you. Okay, I'd like you to pause the video and create a list of at least 5 excuses of why you did not exercise this week, last week, or at some point in your life. Okay, hopefully you have come up with some reasons. Here's a long list. I don't have enough time, which honestly, there's never enough time for everything. And so just make time. I'm afraid of injuring myself, and this is a real one. However, you could start with beginner exercises for fitness, maybe like a yoga class or just walking on the treadmill. I'm not healthy enough to exercise. This is one that I find fascinating. So, someone who's not healthy actually benefits from exercise, but it perpetuates itself, and sometimes anxiety builds up. So, people don't want to go to the gym, they're embarrassed to go to the gym, they have a chronic illness that's getting worse, and then they go and they feel embarrassed, and then they don't feel like they could go back. The one gym I do really like for the no judgment zone is Planet Fitness. It's like $10 a month. And honestly, people there are really not into being like bodybuilders. They're there for fitness or exercise. And it's a pretty supportive place. One irony is if you ever go to a Planet Fitness, a couple times a week, they do like pizza, bagels. And I've always thought like that's not helping people with their exercise, but they are retaining their clientele. The weather, living in Wyoming, I'm sure this is an easy excuse to say, which is, hey, it's too cold out. Or in the summer, it's maybe too hot or it's too windy. That's why at Western Wyoming, all our buildings are connected so that you can walk inside between all of your classes. The only thing you have to do is get from the dorm to the bigger building. A lack of facilities. You have a great facility. You have the ability to come down and work out on cardio equipment, work on free weights. You have the ability to come to the pool. A lack of partners. This I can understand. It's sometimes not fun to always go by yourself. And this could be linked with motivation. If you have a partner to help you, it's always easier. Lack of skill. If you wanted to learn how to play pickleball and you thought that'd be the new greatest way to exercise but don't know how to play pickleball. However, there's a lot of PAC classes at Western that you could take and learn these things. And then the lack of the ability to participate. So it is always easier to come up with an excuse than not. So this is kind of the mindset that you need to change into, which is how to begin exercising or having fitness in your life is first to accept the importance of exercise. The next is schedule activities. So put it on your calendar. Put it on your calendar. Put it on whatever you use to organize yourself. Take some time every day to work on your attitude towards exercise. For some people, the gym is not a great place, and for some people, it's a place that's great. Walking, dancing, moving, yoga, all of those things are valuable, even though they're not strenuous. So if you look at statistics of older people and how valuable stretching is, it has a lot of value. Tai Chi is something a lot of older people do just to get out and move. And then really how to begin is just do it. Dive right in. Okay. These are simple and obvious, but choose exercises that you like. Invite people to come with you. Come up with a goal. And know when to take a break. So I think the goal is really valuable. I like to always have like a hike in the queue. And so in my summer, often I get to go on a big hike. And I like to say, like, oh, July I'm going on a big hike. So therefore I need to train for it. It's always nice to actually have a hike instead of having like a goal that doesn't actually exist. Okay. The last thing we want to talk about is just food. Um, and I want you to think about a meal you ate in the last 8 hours. For me, I listed these for you. Bagel and cream cheese and yogurt. Dinner, I had some bread, cheese, pepperoni, tomato, and avocado. And then for lunch, I went to an all-you-could-eat buffet. So this is not a nutrition class. We just kind of wanted to like throw out a little that, for all this exercising, you need to have good diet. The video on the right, you are welcome to watch. It's a 7-minute excerpt on a gentleman who ate nothing but McDonald's for a month and how horrible he felt afterwards and how bad it was for his health. So as much as like I think like my menu for yesterday wasn't amazing, it was not 3 trips to McDonald's with saturated fats. Okay. Thinking about recreational eating, is the idea that some people like eat for fun and this is like a hobby. And so sometimes it's appropriate to recreational eat, and other times like eating beyond your means is not what people should be doing. So here's a little bit of information about recreational eating, is that people eat for recreation, kind of in the sense of like, hey, do you want to go out for a burger? Or do you want to go do something? 40% of people's budget outside of their home, so like rent, utilities, is based on food. When people go out, they're consuming more calories, and there's about 12,000 new foods introduced a year to the world, and people really enjoy eating. Then there's nothing wrong with that. I'd like you to think about ways to break old eating habits and think about healthier eating habits. And there might not be anything wrong with your eating habits, but I think often we all may have one or two. So just to go back a slide, I think for me, one of my old habits or a habit I have is eating at my desk, not going to a designated area like the cafeteria or lunchroom to eat. And then I think my other habit is sometimes like saying, oh, I'll grab lunch in an hour. Oh, I'll grab lunch in half an hour. Oh, I'll grab lunch in another half hour. And so just not making time for lunch. Here are some just general healthy eating tips. I'm sure you've all seen like a healthy eating plate before, but your meals should be based on higher fiber, starchy carbs. You can never eat too many fruits and vegetables. When I go to my brother's house, he usually fills 2/3 of the plate with vegetables for dinner, and it's delicious usually. Eating more fish instead of red meat, cutting down on saturated fats and sugars, eating less salt. For some people, this is a real challenge, and for some people, depending on their other body elements, this is not recommended from their doctor. So always when thinking about eating healthy, each person is different, but there are a lot of conditions where people don't get a lot of salt, or in the summer, you might feel like, hey, I'm sweating a lot, I'm running a lot, I'm losing a lot of salt. Healthy eating includes that getting outside and doing something, drinking water, don't skimping on that, and not skipping breakfast, which a lot of people do. So there's a million ways to eat healthily, but this is just a snippet of things because if you were in the recreation or fitness world, these are things to think about. Again, this is just a recap. We talked about fitness, the fitness illusion, obesity, kids and adult fitness, understanding and coming up with excuses, helpful tips for being successful, and healthy eating habits. So I know this isn't a nutrition class or a fitness class, but this is part of a rec curriculum. So things to think about.